Hey, everybody. How are y'all doing? Good? Awesome. All right. This is something I've been wanting to talk on stage about for quite a while. I'm the founder and CEO of Change Catalyst, and we're really working across the whole tech ecosystem to help make it more inclusive across the board, domestically as well as globally. And one of the huge issues is that there are tech hubs around the world that we need to really develop mindfully and develop in a way that is inclusive and sustainable for local economies as well as for the global economy and for everyone. And so I'm really excited to moderate this panel today with these amazing three people, all focused on different ways of doing that, different ways of developing tech hubs that are inclusive. And so let's start by just giving a good sense of who you are and what you do and how you relate to tech hubs. I'll start with you, Catherine.
Yeah, my name's Catherine Bracy. I founded an organization in Oakland called the TechEquity Collaborative, and we are organizing the tech community, so tech industry and tech workers in Oakland, around a set of inclusive, community-oriented values, because we think that the growing tech economy in Oakland should work for everyone, and that the tech community has a role to play in making sure that as the wave comes, which it is coming, that everyone has a surfboard. Everyone can ride it. So in terms of tech hubs, I really think of it in terms of cities. I know that that's the first thing I thought of, and in a previous life, I worked with local governments around the world, really, and I don't know if I met a mayor who wasn't thinking about how they could build a high-tech industry in their urban core, and at the same time, whether these conversations were connected or not, thinking about just the challenges of displacement and gentrification. And so we really think that the problem is urgent in Oakland right now. If we can solve it for Oakland, working closely with local government, then this is a model that could be replicated around the world. How we build sort of inclusive tech economies that support everyone in cities and not just some who are already privileged.
And so when you're looking at tech hubs as a city, what are the different components that make up that tech hub for you? You said policy. What are those components?
Well, I'm a community organizer, so I just think of the people, and obviously there's infrastructural answers to this question, so you need reliable internet and all of those kinds of things. But the reason that tech hubs are vibrant is because of the people who are in them. And I think in order for us to build inclusive tech hubs, we have to focus on the community building aspects. It's something that you have to be focused on intentionally. So the spaces that people have to gather in, the conversations that people are willing to have, the points of view that can be represented. It really helps if your local government officials are supportive of this, as Mayor Schaaf in Oakland is very supportive. So first and foremost, I think it's a focus on people who are really energized and engaged around these topics.
Awesome. So Nicole, can you talk a little bit about who you are, where you work, and how that relates to tech hubs?
Yes. I'm Nicole Froker. I work at Google for Entrepreneurs, and our mission is to connect global startup communities together, as well as to resources so that we can work on the world's biggest challenges. So we partner with a number of organizations around the world. We partner with 50 organizations, 25 of whom happen to be tech hub co-working spaces, along with accelerator programs, incubator programs, and larger community event series like Startup Grind and Startup Weekend. And then we also run physical spaces of our own called Campus. These are buildings owned and operated by Google that are dedicated to the startup community, and they are open to anyone to become a member, work from campus for free, and get access to unparalleled mentorship, resources, and workshops so startups can build their companies. So for us, tech hubs are really integral to the work that we do. We support 25 spaces around the world. And then with the campuses that we run, a core part of our focus is really creating a connected global infrastructure of physical spaces that have the resources, that have the mentorship and the components to help startups get their businesses off the ground. So this is a really key part of our work.
Awesome, awesome. And just to add a little bit, I think we've had a lot of conversations about tech hubs globally, and one of the interesting conversations we've had is a tech hub a physical space, or is it an online community, or is it both? And I think that's an interesting kind of thing to grapple with as well, because you have some partners that are more online than offline too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that startups are born among communities, and we see that the physical space component as a convening factor is really integral for entrepreneurs who are just starting out and looking to kick off their businesses. But as startups are going global, it's really important for them to have access to this wider worldwide community. So, for us, we've really put a lot of effort into connecting our global partner network together. One way we do this is we have something called the Global Passport Program, where any entrepreneur in one of our partner hubs or in our campuses can work from any other space in the network for up to a week at a time and get access to new cities, new connections, get plugged into the local events. So you're right, it's very a hyper-local strategy, but then also we recognize that this going global from day one opportunity is really important to facilitate as well.
Awesome, awesome. So Ramcess, can you tell us about who you are,
Sure.
what you do, and how that relates to tech hubs?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. First, I'd like to start off by saying, Melinda, thank you for having me here. I'm very excited to be here with my fellow panelists, Catherine and Nicole. So excited to be here to talk about inclusion. That's what I do at Comcast. I'm the Director of Workforce Diversity and Inclusion. What we focus on in WDI, as we like to refer to it, is our employee resource groups. We also have an employee enrichment series, which is a 1-hour broadcast that we do every month that focuses on a different area of inclusion, whether it be Black History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month. This month is Ability Awareness Month. We use it for employee engagement and to make sure that we drive inclusion within the organization. We also manage our national and local partnerships, which we use for pipelining. We come to conferences like Tech Inclusion so we could identify top talent. We go to Grace Hopper, NSBE, a variety of different conferences. We also have targeted outreach to certain demographics that require perhaps a little bit more attention. So we're talking about our people with disabilities, our lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community. One of our goals is to brand Comcast to be the beacon for women in technology. So those are some areas that we like to focus on, in addition to military hiring and development programs for our high potential people of color and for women. So in terms of tech hubs is something very important to us. The CEO of Comcast Cable, Neil Smith, charged us with the responsibility to innovate everything. In order to innovate everything, we have to stay close to techpreneurs. That is something that's absolutely vital and critical. Granted, we have a lot of competitors in our different lines of business, but our largest competitor, or someone we might want to cooperate with, is that person who's working out of their garage. So we want to encourage that. We want to create an atmosphere where people feel as if they could work together, learn, collaborate, share space, fail fast, and keep it moving and continue to grow. So in Philadelphia at headquarters, we have the tallest building in Philadelphia now. We're actually in the process of building another tower, which is our Center for Innovation and Technology. And in that space, we have a complete floor that's going to be dedicated to techpreneurs and to incubate businesses coming up, making sure they have the resources that they need in order to be successful. We have a young lady that works for us by the name of Danielle Kahn, and she actually spearheads this program called the Tomorrow Tour. On the Tomorrow Tour, we travel to different cities to make sure that we get our name out, that we want techpreneurs to consider us as partners.
Awesome, awesome. So Nicole and Ramcess, both, you're coming from tech companies. Why is it important for a tech company to invest in the infrastructure of a tech hub? Why is that important, and why in particular is it important to develop one that's inclusive? Two big questions.
Well, for Google, a lot of the time we get this question, why is Google doing this? Why are we supporting entrepreneurs? Why do we have this arm of Google? And the answer is really that Google itself started in a garage 18 years ago. And so entrepreneurship is really core to who we are, and Larry and Sergey, our two co-founders, recognize that this is how they got started, and they want to empower the next generation of risk takers. And so certainly investing in these communities is great for our core business, but it's also great for our users, great for communities and cities around the world. So this is why this is important for us. And in terms of why it's important for tech hubs themselves to be inclusive, I think from the founder perspective, this is really important. If you're looking to build a global company, but you're in this insulated environment and you're limited to the feedback that you're receiving from a kind of non-inclusive environment, you're limited to the feedback of a limited worldview, you're not going to be very successful building this global company. So in that way, I think it's just smart for business to get a community that is representative of the whole and representative of your values. So it's good for business, certainly, and then and it's certainly good for innovation. So.
Why, tell me a little bit more about that, about how is it good for innovation? Why is inclusion important for that?
I think if you're representing values and the community at large, you are ultimately in a better position to build global companies, and yeah, I think it's just very important to have people feel that they're in a safe environment, because people become more productive, build better products. It contributes to the bottom line, and ultimately, yeah, it's just good for business.
Awesome. And Ramcess?
So I agree with everything that pretty much Nicole said. When you take a look at Comcast, NBCUniversal, we are very entrepreneurial in spirit. The organization started off by an entrepreneur, Ralph Roberts, who bought a little cable company in Tupelo, Mississippi, and has been able to grow into what it is today. So it's very important for us to make sure that we have an inclusive environment for all of those reasons. We want to be reflective of the communities that we serve. And if we are reflective, where we have employees that are more engaged and more innovative, they're willing to go that extra mile, and they're willing to put in that extra time to make sure that the customer's always happy, and always to try to think about what's the next best thing that we can work on. Can we come up with a talking remote control, which has been very successful and been very good and inclusive in terms of an environment where, in households where there's different languages, oftentimes there's a younger child that's used as a remote control, but people are able to speak different languages into our remote. So again, having an entrepreneurial spirit that sparks and drives innovation.
Awesome. And Catherine, so I was born in San Francisco in the 70s, and the percentage of African Americans in the city was over 13%. Now it's less than 6%. So, and I believe that in some ways has to do with the tech boom and the tech industry really moving in and not doing it in a way that's mindfully inclusive. Catherine, can you talk about why it's important at a city level to really look at how tech is growing and doing it in a more mindful way? What are the repercussions of not doing that, and how do we develop more inclusive spaces? And
yeah, I mean, I don't know that I need to tell anyone here, since we're in San Francisco, that the change to the sort of complexion of the city, no pun intended, has been pretty rough. And I moved here about 5 years ago. I lived in San Francisco the first year I was here, and then moved to Oakland. And even in that short period of time, I can notice a demonstrable difference, and it just feels more, when everyone is the same, and everyone's sort of like the dominant culture is, it's sort of become a company town, and everyone kind of thinks the same. I feel like that's a real risk for innovation, and there's study upon study to show that diversity is a necessary precondition for innovation. Oakland has lost 25% of its black population between 2000 and 2010. Expected to have seen that number drop even more when the next American Community Survey comes out. soon. So these are things that we're really concerned about. And Oakland, by many accounts, is the most diverse city in America, and we want to keep it that way. We think that diversity is important, and we think that by protecting that diversity and making sure that the tech ecosystem that grows in Oakland is diverse and inclusive, we can create a different model for the world to show, it doesn't have to be, the picture you have in your head of what the tech industry does to a city is not the way that it has to be. And I believe really strongly that the industry that is growing up on the most democratizing technology in the history of humankind should be inclusive. And it's a tragedy that it's created more inequality than we've seen since the robber baron days. So I think we've got a moral obligation to fix it. I think we've got an economic imperative to fix it, that inequality is a huge threat. And I think we can make a real difference by building a new model in Oakland.
Yeah. There's an opportunity gap. There's a wealth gap as well that is constructed as a result of not building inclusively. And I agree completely. What needs to happen? What needs to happen in tech hubs? What needs to happen kind of globally? What kind of a shift needs to happen?
Well, I'll take that.
I'm throwing it out to all three of you. But, yeah.
I mean, the approach that we're taking is that the tech industry needs to play an active role, and tech companies and tech workers. And I'm friends with lots of people who work in tech and live in San Francisco and are ashamed to say that they work in tech, even though they want to do better. There's just no avenue for them. They don't know what to do, right? They don't know how to organize. And so as an organizer, I think it's important that we create the communities, the intentionality, the opportunities for the tech community to take action. So we are starting with companies and people who work in tech, as opposed to kind of agitating from the outside, to look at the motivations, the barriers, the resource constraints, the incentives for doing what all these companies say they want to do. Well, what does it actually look like when you get behind the curtain? What is really preventing you from doing that? And then building programming that fills those gaps. So for example, I think the tech kind of pipeline or workforce development ecosystem is very heavily focused, almost exclusively, on technical skill development. The companies that I'm working with in Oakland who have made commitments to hiring local, longtime Oakland residents from underrepresented communities, the jobs that they're hiring for are mostly not technical jobs. And there's nowhere I can go, there's no program that I've found that is really trying to create that talent pool. So that's a gap that we can fill. So how do we help people who have translatable skills? Maybe they've worked in customer service or retail, they're qualified to do customer success jobs in the tech industry. How do we help them translate that and create this pool of talent? And then work with companies to understand that the cookie cutter that they think fits the role isn't necessarily the right fit. And then use that as an on-ramp into potentially long-term technical careers in the tech industry, but helping people get their foot in the door through another avenue that doesn't require you to have to learn how to code.
I love Catherine's point about programs and figuring out what the gaps are. For our team specifically, we have a couple different approaches to diversity and inclusion. We directly back organizations that are focused on supporting underrepresented founders. So for instance, we work with an organization in New York called Coalition for Queens. They're a 9-month accelerator program that provide coding skills to people to minorities looking to enter tech. And so helping funnel resources and providing resources to these organizations to help them scale their work. And also through campuses, we run a lot of our own programs designed to invite more communities into campus. So one of my favorite programs that we run out of campus is called Campus for Moms and Dads, and it's a 9-week baby-friendly startup school for new parents on maternity and paternity leave, and they can come in, bring their babies, and help launch their companies out of campus. And we have crying rooms and feeding rooms, and it's just a generally safe space for new parents to come in. And we think really consciously and deliberately about everything from just the design aesthetic of campus to the programs that we run and the outreach that we have at campus to make sure that it is inclusive and people want to come to campus and work from there every day. So we tackle it in a few different ways.
And you're also partnering with this organization called Tech Inclusion and Change.
Exactly.
Your name's right there.
There we are.
Which I think is an important, and obviously we are grateful for that. And we're also doing some work with women tech makers at Google too, around developing materials for tech hubs to really learn how to be more inclusive, and really grateful for the partnership with Google on several projects like that. Ramcess.
So Melinda, as everything that you mentioned, 100% accurate in terms of there's an educational divide, health divide, the digital divide is real. We know we're preaching to the choir. Our organization invests in STEM programs and coding programs, but even beyond that, the reason why tech hubs are important is that you don't want to leave a certain demographic of people behind. And as long as we have children, and as long as we have kids who are trying to work out their schedules with their parents and with their guardians so that they can drive to the internet, so that they can work on their homework and work on their assignment, that's a challenge, driving to the internet, and that's something that really exists. And that's something that we take very seriously. And we have a program called Internet Essentials, where we actually make the internet available for low-income homes. And it's really been life-changing in the homes that we've been able to kind of come into. So we've actually partnered with Jackie Joyner-Kersey as a spokesperson to really talk about some of the programs that we're doing with regards to Internet Essentials, so that this way we could spread the word and get into more homes. And we would like to partner with some of our competitors to do the same thing in their footprint as well.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's a really important point that when we talk about the digital divide in the world, I think most of us think of that as outside the US, but even in San Francisco, in the San Francisco public school system, 1 out of 4 kids does not have internet at home. So the digital divide is real and really important. And so the work you're doing around both Google and Comcast is doing around access to technology is really important.
And I think what's great too is increasingly we're seeing tech hubs as a home for new forms of education, where in 6 months or 12 months you can gain access to coding skills and technical skills that just much faster than you could in the past. And so Galvanize is a great example of that. They're a partner of ours. We just heard from Jim Dieters this morning, and they have extensive, robust curricula around web development, data science, and so we're really proud to partner with them and offer scholarships for minorities looking to enter into those types of training. So I think that's a really exciting phenomenon that we're seeing across tech hubs globally.
Awesome. So I want to open it up to a couple of questions. It's from the audience, so I just have one more, which is, what can we all do to help invest in our own tech hubs, our own ecosystems? What can anybody in tech do to make a difference and make their local tech hub more inclusive?
Well, if you live in Oakland, you can join the TechEquity Collaborative, techequity.us. But yeah, I think this is one of the reasons we started it, because it is really hard to think about what can I do as an individual to change this kind of macroeconomic dynamic that's happening around me. But some of the simple things are just to learn, how the tech, what the tech ecosystem in the place where you live looks like, how you can plug in, what opportunities there might be to partner with a training organization or to bring a chapter of something like Black Girls Code to your city. I think you have to start by being aware that there is an impact of tech in a place, and that can go one of two ways. It can go well or it can go poorly, and if it's going to go well, it requires people to be conscious and participate.
Awesome.
So I think we're talking about access and exposure. That's something that's critically important. So what we say is it's very important to own your own professional development. We definitely encourage that. We also encourage people to be allies. He for she. If you're in corporate America and you're in a meeting and there's no women in the conference room with you, what are your responsibilities to make sure that those voices are heard, and next time there's a follow-up meeting, you have that representation. So all of that is vitally important. There's a film called Code, Debugging the Gender Gap. Phenomenal film that talks about some of the obstacles and hurdles that women have in the technology space in terms of perhaps getting in and not staying in there very long because of conditions and the political climate. So those are the type of films that we actually travel around in our footprint, and we actually do different screenings. We've done screenings in LA and DC and New York. We partner with organizations like Silicon Harlem to do different things just to kind of advocate and get education and awareness out there. We participate in the Hour of Coding. We participate in Adopt a School. Those type of programs are programs that everybody can get involved in and just continue to promote awareness.
Awesome.
Yeah. I was just going to say, so a couple years ago, our team ran an initiative called 40 Forward, and this was a campaign where we put out a call to action to our entire partner network and said, come forward with a proposal for a program that would increase the women's participation in your community by 25%. And we saw 40 of our partners come forward and take this challenge and develop programs with our support. So our team dedicated $1 million in aggregate across these global programs to bring them to life. And I mention that just because I think that all of a sudden having that conversation and thinking about, all right, why aren't women participating in my community, or why does this gender gap exist, really yielded creative solutions, sometimes as small as changing the times of events from evening to morning hours to accommodate working mothers. And so I think that it was a really great opportunity for people to just all of a sudden step back and ask the questions, why does this gap exist? And something as simple as, again, changing times or not serving pizza and beer at every event, yielded really interesting results.
Yeah, I think that is an important point, that change is hard, of course, but there are some really easy things that we can do if we just kind of take a step back and look at and really analyze why, and really understand what it is that are those barriers, yeah, and address them. That's great. Questions from the audience? We have one in the middle right here.
Thank you so much. At my company, we often have a happy hour. And I know that in order to be inclusive of parents, they try to have them earlier in the day, 3 to 5 or whatever, and people can come and go. But even just the term happy hour, I have a lot of problems with it because it sounds, to me it seems kind of bro-y. It seems like, okay, we're going to have beer and sit around or whatever. And I've been looking for an alternate way of expressing it, because what I've been met with in trying to change the name is, we want people to know that it's a time to be social and there are going to be refreshments, not necessarily just beer, but refreshments. So I've been looking for a new way to frame it, or maybe a different type of social event that is a place for people to bond. I've heard about places, instead of doing, the beer or whiskey hour or whatever, to do like a cupcake, social or something. But I'm looking for alternatives to the happy hour model, or at least to the name happy hour, that gives the impression that there will be refreshments there and incentivizes people to come and be social, but without feeling that sort of exclusive, or like it's for a particular group and not for everyone else. Yeah,
so like similar to what Nicole said, that sometimes it's just around the language, and just a little quick tweak around the language. Was there another question, or a question in the audience here up front?
Thank you all for sharing your current efforts. I had a question for Ramcess. Understanding that language is of great importance, and understanding that Comcast is now one of 5 major communication networks. My question is, I understand language plays a great role in trying to create these inclusive spaces, as well as Comcast is also a part of the socialization of our society playing such a huge role, and 90% of what everyone sees, reads, and hears comes from these 5 major corporations. And so how are you all working to address some of the misconceptions that are communicated via your communication platforms?
Okay, I just want to repeat the question, make sure I understand it. Thank you for the question, first of all. So it sounds as if what I'm hearing is Comcast, NBCUniversal as a media company, what are we doing to kind of help the perceptions and images of who's in technology and who's in the space?
Well, just in general, because I think like when you look at the media and you see overrepresentation or underrepresentation of various communities, that then creates a certain socialization amongst our society, which those are the folks who are creating these inclusive or uninclusive spaces.
Sure.
So how are you all going about trying to address those misconceptions that are being communicated through your channels and through your programming?
Sure. So overall at Comcast, we have a very holistic approach to diversity and inclusion. We have 5 major departments in that space, I would say even 6. We have a governance department, that's our corporate D&I department. They're responsible for measuring and tracking. You can't improve what you don't measure. That department also manages our Joint Diversity Council. Our Joint Diversity Council is our board of directors that helps us with regards to our policy, with regards to diversity and inclusion. We have our workforce diversity and inclusion team, which is the department that I lead and that I run. What we want to do in that space is we want to be reflective of the communities that we serve. So we want to make sure that we follow our census. The census tells us there's 50% women in the world, 33% people of color. That's what we want to see in our organization. But not only in the overall workforce, we want to see it managers, supervisors, directors, VP, all the way to the board of directors. So we believe actually having that in the workforce would be a little bit more reflective, and that could really influence the images. In addition to that, supplier diversity is another space that we're in. We're a part of the $1 Billion Roundtable. There are only 22 organizations that's a part of the $1 Billion Roundtable. We're the only entertainment and media company in that space. What that means is we spend over $1 billion with minority-owned vendors and startups and women-owned companies as well. Programming is something that's important to us, making sure that we have diversity in front of the camera, behind the camera, as well as in the business. And not only through Universal Studios. Universal Studios is doing well with regards to embracing diversity. A movie called Fast and the Furious 7 did very well last year. I think one of the reasons why it did very well was because it had a very diverse cast to it. But not only those stories, we're talking about Jesse Owens' story. We're talking about Straight Outta Compton. We did those, performed very well internationally, supporting women directors as well, Angelina Jolie, Broken. So those are some spaces that we're looking at. And in addition to that, we also have Comcast Ventures. Comcast Ventures actually helps support some startups that are minority-owned or women-owned as well. So we have something called the Catalyst Fund. So we invest and incubate firms and companies. So those are all the different things that we do, as well as community investment and the Internet Essentials to kind of help contribute to diversity throughout the organization and images of diversity in the tech space and throughout the other areas that we work in and practice in.
Awesome. I'm sorry. You can continue the conversation after we're actually over time. So let me just make a few quick announcements. Lunch will be at noon, just in the atrium behind here. There's also meditation at 12:30 in the theater. So you can go there at 12:30. You can bring your lunch if you like. And one of the things we really wanted to design at this conference was a space to really look at this whole ecosystem, the whole ecosystem and understanding the tech hubs and the role that we all play within it. And the Solutions Lab is there to help us kind of understand what all these pieces are and how we can all contribute to it. So please visit the Solutions Lab at some point throughout the day and contribute your thoughts and ideas and see all the amazing work that is being done to help develop inclusive tech ecosystems and tech hubs around the world. So thank you, all three of you, for having an awesome conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.